It was the first blue law in the history of the world. And it really stemmed from the fact that Constantine had been a sun worshiper, and the Romans dedicated the first day of the week to the sun. It was literally the sun day. Now, growing up, I always assumed that the apostles were the ones who changed the day of worship from Saturday to Sunday. But if that was true, why would a newly Christianized Roman emperor need to pass a law forcing the matter? And why would the Council of Laodicea, more than 40 years after that, need to follow up Constantine's law with another one that actually forbid the observance of Saturday as the Sabbath? The reason was there were still Christians keeping the Sabbath of the fourth commandment when Constantine came to power. And that fits the words of Jesus perfectly. He said the Sabbath would still be in effect years after he returned to heaven. Speaking of the Roman sack of Jerusalem in AD 70, Jesus warned his disciples, "Pray that your flight may not be in winter or on the Sabbath." The story of Celtic Christianity gets very interesting. Patrick is living some 400 years after Christ in an environment that is distinctly different from the Christianity of the Dark Ages. From what we can tell, there are still countless Christians keeping the original seventh-day Sabbath all over Europe. And the reason we know that is because the official church felt the need to crack down on them. So you've got to wonder then, which day would Patrick keep? Remember, all the Celts have is a Bible. They don't have canon law. They don't have the traditions of the continental church. The answer comes as a surprise to a lot of people. Remember, an angel visited Patrick, and his surviving letters indicate that angel visited him many times, and almost always on the seventh day of the week. Another great Celtic missionary by the name of Columbanus, a man who lived almost 200 years after Patrick, wrote these words:
"We are bidden to work on 6 days, but on the seventh, which is the Sabbath, we are restrained from every servile labor. Now, by the number 6, the completeness of our work is meant, since it was in 6 days the Lord made heaven and earth. Yet on the Sabbath, we are forbidden to labor at any servile work. That is sin, since he who commits sin is a slave to sin."
Toward the end of the 6th century, Pope Gregory the Great started sending monks to live in Britain. And those monks came in contact with some of the Celtic missionaries. They sent Pope Gregory a very curious report. The Celts were radically different. They allowed their priests to marry. They were practicing an older form of immersion baptism. They didn't know anything about Roman canon law. They had their own translation of the Bible, and they kept Saturday as a day of rest. Is it possible that God knew the greater part of our Christian church was going to compromise? It's a fact we can't escape. We really did burn heretics at the stake. We seized their property and tortured people who didn't toe the official line. The Christianity we perpetrated in the Dark Ages, the Christianity skeptics still make fun of, you and I know full well, it doesn't match the Christianity of the New Testament. To be perfectly honest, we even compromised the gospel itself. We started selling salvation to desperate people, convincing them that good works and a few gold coins could actually secure a spot in heaven. But then you start to dig past the official stories, the well-known ones, and you begin to discover a very biblical Christianity surviving outside the boundaries of the Roman Empire. Today we know, in the earliest centuries, there were Christian churches stretching deep into Africa, across the Middle East, into India, and maybe even as far away as Japan. And then, at Earth's darkest hour, a brand new Christian church just happens to spring up in one of the most remote places. A church with a distinctly New Testament Christianity. The book of Revelation got it absolutely right. the woman was given 2 wings of a great eagle, that she might fly into the wilderness to her place, where she is nourished for a time, times, and half a time from the presence of the serpent. There are stories we know and stories we don't. One of the most remarkable untold stories is that of the Celtic Christians. What's even more remarkable is how we get from Patrick to Martin Luther. This has been a broadcast of the Voice of Prophecy. To learn more